Now, it's my belief that all entrepreneurs should be concerned with inflation and should look for ways to hedge against it. And today, we're going to talk about one of those ways. As a matter of fact, this way has proven itself over the past several thousand years. We're talking about gold.
When you start printing too much money, the value of that money drops. And we've seen since we've gone off the gold standard in 1971, almost a 90% drop in the value of that dollar, the value of that currency.
Of all the economic crises a country can face, inflation is the most dangerous. Inflation doesn't just make people poor, it totally destroys their confidence in their leaders, the authorities who issued the now worthless currency they're using for toilet paper.
I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs over the past 30 years, and most own their own businesses for several reasons. First, there's freedom. Entrepreneurs have the freedom to make their own decisions, schedule their own time, and work from home. Then there's passion. Entrepreneurs can pursue their passions and get rewarded for it. Third, there's control. Entrepreneurs have control over their future and can pursue a higher purpose than just money. And then, of course, there's money. Entrepreneurs generally like the challenge of making as much money as possible in the way that they want to make it. But there's nothing that can challenge our ability to make and keep money more than something that is generally out of our control. It's called inflation. And inflation shows itself when everyday things start to cost more and more. When the amount of money it takes to live today costs more than what the same amount of money could be just a few years earlier, that's inflation. And oftentimes this is caused by government. Or to put it another way, bad business decisions. Decisions like printing more and more money. Tucker Carlson covers this topic quite well.
Of all the economic crises a country can face, inflation is the most dangerous. Inflation doesn't just make people poor, it totally destroys their confidence in their leaders, the authorities who issued the now worthless currency they're using for toilet paper. Inflation is not an act of God like a drought or hurricane, it's an act of negligence like drunk driving. It is proof that the people in charge are reckless and stupid. That's why inflation tends to topple governments. Once you get inflation, there's no pretending you've done a good job. You have not done a good job, and everybody knows it.
Now, it's my belief that all entrepreneurs should be concerned with inflation and should look for ways to hedge against it. And today, we're going to talk about one of those ways. As a matter of fact, this way has proven itself over the past several thousand years. We're talking about gold. Our guest today calls it pirate money and discusses it on his regular shows called the Pirate Money Radio and the Economic War Room. Mike Carter is an expert on the topic of gold and is currently working with over 30 states to move toward creating their own form of transactional gold as currencies. Help me welcome Mike to the Constitutional Entrepreneur. Mike, I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for being on.
Great to be here. Thanks. I love the concept of what you're doing with this podcast, bringing entrepreneurs together and the Constitution. It's exciting to be a part of it.
Well, thanks so much. And today, this topic, it's a very, very interesting topic to bring into an entrepreneurial conversation, but it's also an intriguing and interesting topic because of what's going on in the world today. Of course, everyone, we're going to be talking about pirate money with foremost expert on the topic. I know him and his partners. He'll tell us a little bit about that. But Mike, your radio show, Pirate Money Radio, you go into this deep dive on really the importance of gold, how it works with in the marketplace today, the what, the when, the why. And so I'd like you to jump right into it. Let's talk about pirate money. What an interesting title. You probably got your top takeaways to bring my audience and this audience up to speed with where we're going with this topic. And I know we're going to shift to some legislation and bring everyone into that conversation of where this country is going and why we need to have this conversation. So, man, thanks for being on. Give us a little bit of that background of pirate money and where we're going.
You bet. Well, pirate money. Let me clarify what pirate money is to begin with, because first people think pirates. What is pirate money? What is that? Gold and silver. So it's not maybe as scary as it sounds, but pirate money is a book that is a genius branding. I think I got to give Kevin Freeman, the author of the book, full credit for it, because pirate money is really getting back to what our country was founded upon: gold and silver. Our founders hated fiat currency. They did not like paper money. And they left an opportunity, they left a clause in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, which allows states to have their own gold and silver, their own legal tender as long as it's backed by gold and silver. And that's what we call the pirate money clause, because when we first started this country, we were dealing with pieces of 8 and gold and silver. We had fair weights and measures. Unfortunately, today there's kind of a normalcy bias out there, and people think we've always had paper money. It's just the way that it is. What are you talking about going back to gold and silver? That can't be done. And what Kevin lays out beautifully here is the opportunity that what money was, the history of money, what happened within the fiat currency, how that's been bad for hardworking Americans out there, and then the constitutional precedents that are set of why this is right for such a time as today. And then we'll show a technology and a platform as proof of concept that says you can now trade and exchange in gold and silver anywhere you spend MasterCard. So I have a debit card right here. And on this debit card, I'm able to go into any store in any state right now. And in less than 200 milliseconds, I can put this card in, buy what I'm going to buy. It'll check in the vault where my gold is stored. It'll say, does he have enough money to buy this? Yes, he has the money to buy it. It'll sell my gold at spot price, convert it to dollars, and pay that retailer. And then we're working with up to almost 30, I think we're on 30 states right now, to facilitate legislation that allows transactional gold and silver as legal tender in all these states. The technology is there to do it now, but we want the states to really step up, take advantage of the constitutional rights they have as states to make gold and silver legal tender. And so that's what's exciting about this.
So Mike, I'm going to back it up here for those that haven't been in tune with the gold and silver or gold conversation specifically today. Because we are talking, most people watching this own a business, they're entrepreneurs, they're dealing with money day in and day out. I'd like to get your short definition of what inflation is. And then I'd like to ask you a question. Why did we ever get off the gold standard to begin with?
Yeah. Well, inflation, I don't know if you need to define that. You just simply look at your bills. The fast food, when you buy a sandwich now, is about 40% higher. You look at your utility bills, you look at your insurance costs, you look at everything that's out there. But what happens is when you start printing too much money, the value of that money drops. And we've seen since we've gone off the gold standard in 1971, almost a 90% drop in the value of that dollar and the value of that currency. If you're a business, you're feeling that. You're looking at your cost of wages right now. You're looking at your cost of utilities. You're looking at rents. Everything that's going up. And you're saying, what am I going to do about this? It was interesting. I got my haircut, I guess several months ago. I brought up the conversation, but I paid my barber and I said, maybe next time I can pay you in gold. And he's like, what? And I explained what I was able to do, and I could pay him in gold right now with my phone app or this debit card. But I said, when it converts it into legal tender, it'll take the gold and silver, convert it to legal tender, and it'll pay you in dollars. But if we get this passed in Texas, which is where I live right now, I said, you'll have a choice. You can either take that in gold or you can take it in dollars. And he's like, I'm taking the gold. Imagine if you're a businessman out there or woman, you're transacting, and now you have an opportunity to say, well, do I want to take it in dollars? Do I want to take it in gold? And, there might be other advantages in that if I take it in gold, there might be less processing fees. What we see happening is we're looking at what the states are doing out there. Is you're able to transact, and if it's in gold, there might be a 1 point less than your bank merchant fees with everything that goes through there, and you got something that's a stable store of value.
You mentioned that our founders hated fiat currency. Tell me, back that up with your thoughts on that. I mean, our founders were serious guys. I mean, they took this country serious, and this is we're talking constitutional, entrepreneurial stuff here. Tell me what you mean by our founders hated it.
Well, if you look at what happens with money, and if you look at what happens with great civilizations, let's go all the way back to the Roman Empire, where the denarius, they started to debase their currency, and it went from 95% silver down to almost nothing. That's what led to the collapse, because all of a sudden the money that you're working to earn, what you want to have out there, is worth nothing. How do you make a living? How do you pay your bills? What do you do is you're working harder and harder every day, but it's worth less and less out there. We're seeing that same thing, unfortunately, happening in America today. Great civilizations last about 250 years. We're at that 250-year mark, and I pray that this pirate money clause and the things that we're talking about today are part of the solution that keeps us strong economically. It helps us protect that economic liberty. But nations commit suicide. They're not murdered. And right now, with the record debt that we have, $36 trillion, we're seeing $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. This is not sustainable. And so there needs to be a solution to get back to fair weights and measures, fair values out there. And our founders put in the Constitution in Article 1, Section 10, that pirate money clause. And now it's simple. We just have to help legislators like yourself, understand your legislator in Florida down there. And Florida's got a great team that's moving forward on this. We got the legislators to make this legal tender, gold and silver legal tender, make it transactional. In fact, in Florida, I think there's three things that Florida is focusing on right now: making gold and silver legal tender, making it transactional, and then you guys in Florida have a tax on a sales tax, a Florida sales tax on any gold sales under $500. Take those three things, get them done. You're on your way to making this happen. You'll be one of the leaders in the country that's dealing in transactional gold and silver, taking advantage of this opportunity. And there's economic benefits that could be significant for Florida.
It's such an intriguing topic. Matter of fact, I am in the House of Representatives here in Florida, in the state house, and a fellow rep here in Florida, Central Florida, introduced me to a bill. I'm a fairly new member. I'm just in my first reelection cycle, so I'm going into second term from that standpoint. And the bill was introduced to me as, hey, we want to bring transactional gold to Florida. And I had never thought about that. I hadn't heard about it a whole lot. And that's going to come back to a question I do want to ask you. With all the problems we've had getting off the gold standard, why is it taking so long, in your opinion, to get the states? Because you kicked this thing off talking about the states have a constitutional right to create their own transactional currency, but they haven't acted on it. They're just now acting on it. And if we could play this out a few years and say we do now all of a sudden, a few years from now, have the ability for a state to transact in gold, what happens to the fiat currency world when people start to feel like, man, this is a much safer way to do business?
Well, I think you're going to see two things happen. Dollars are going to continue. We're going to continue to do business in dollars. Mm-hmm. The U.S. is still a great country, and the U.S. dollar. I'm happy that we have that and that system that's out there. But we're seeing coming up in October here, BRICS nations that are targeting our currency. They want to de-dollarize America. Rumors of potential. I don't know if they're going to agree on how they're going to form around a currency here, but there'll be different settlements that they want to do, and they're working this with the Bank of International Settlements and all that kind of stuff. Eventually, we will be one of several probably reserve currencies, and that will limit our ability to print money like we've been printing money, and that's going to create even more pressure as it relates to inflationary impact out there. We want to simply offer another way to pay. We want to have a kind of a parallel system, one that really kind of offers a safety valve that if there is some type of surprise out there economically, that people can shift from dollars to gold and then back to dollars again. Or they can have some money, they're going to have money in dollars because that's how you pay your bills and so forth for the most part. But they're going to have a separate wallet over here in gold that's never loaned out. What they have in their wallet is what they owned. And that's my ready money. And I can spend that to buy my groceries if I need to in the case of an emergency. I have it out there. Hopefully keeping up with fair weights and measures, which gold and silver does. And we started out this whole thing in Texas with a very simple message that this is just another way to pay, but it's a natural hedge against inflation. And that simple message resonated with both Democrats and Republicans here in Texas. People got it. I had people from both sides invite me into their office. They tell me more about this because they realized, what? Not everybody, you don't have to be rich anymore to buy gold. It used to be that was kind of a luxury that if you had a lot of discretionary income, you could do it. What we're talking about here as this legislation gets passed, and I'm not promoting gold or silver. I don't sell any gold or silver. We don't have sponsors for gold and silver. We're facilitating the legislation. We're facilitating, we work on big ideas that protect liberty, security, and values here at the Economic War Room. And this is one of the big ideas that said we need to get behind this and we need to make it happen. But imagine this, you can buy as little as 10 cents worth of gold at spot price at 0.5%, have it in your account. Let's assume you get this done as one of the leaders there in Florida. and you put it in the bullion depository, whichever you pick for that. And then I've got this card, and I want to put a little money in every month, and it might be $50 a month, or it might be $100 a month. But in a year's time, at $100 a month, I got $1,200 in gold. If inflation keeps going up like it's been going, that $1,200 might be worth $1,500. But let's say that, I work every day for a living. I've got to have my paycheck. My car breaks down. Well, gosh, I got a flat tire. I didn't want to have to spend my gold, but that's in reserves. I can spend it. Unlike the gold that I have hidden under a bed somewhere, it's like, well, I can't really get access to that quick enough. I spend it, but you know what? When I buy that tire, if it's kept up with inflation, that tire is probably going to be a little bit cheaper to me because I paid for it in gold than if I had dollars, because then dollars are doing this or they're inflating. My gold is that stable store of value out there.
So here, and that's, I appreciate you going into this. This is not an anti-dollar movement here.
No.
This is not an anti-dollar movement. I think some people might think how everybody wants to get away from this or that. No. You're bringing an alternative, which sounds like with that parallel, it would really strengthen everybody's position financially and just provide a whole lot more stability, especially in everyone's minds.
Yeah, and if I can even jump in there, I mean, the company that I'm using here is a private company, and people often will say, well, if a private company can already do this, why does the state of Florida need to have this? Why does the state of Texas need it? Louisiana, Oklahoma, Kansas, all these states that are looking at moving forward on this, and we kind of break that down into three areas. But the first one is trust. I know that if I'm buying from the state, that gold is going to be of the level of purity, that it's real, that it's there, it's backed by the state of Florida. I know how to buy it. I'm not paying a big markup fee, and it's easy for me to sell. In fact, it costs me nothing to sell if I spend it. It costs me just a small 0.5% if I have to sell it, but it makes it easy. So there's a trust factor there that's kind of off the charts as it relates to being able to buy gold and silver. We make it easy to do. Otherwise, we get calls all the time from people watching our show saying, I don't know how to buy gold. Can you tell me? I don't even know how to begin doing this. The states make that easy through this type of technology. The second part becomes taxes. And we're not tax professionals or tax attorneys, but we look at how you define functional currency, how the IRS is defining that. And you look at that, if it's a state-based legal tender, if it's serving as functional currency, if you use gold to buy a stick of gum or make a car payment or pay your taxes with it, it falls under that definition of functional currency. Unlike a gold coin, which might be a collectible, I'm not going to spend a 1 ounce gold coin to buy a stick of gum because they're not going to know how to make change with it. But through the modern technology, electronic technology of being able to say, okay, that's this much percent of in grams or ounces, boom, it sells that fractional amount and pays that to that retailer. That's the big idea there. That's functional money. So therefore, you shouldn't have to pay taxes on money, right? That would be theft. If your money's inflated, you should not have to pay on that. That eliminates the tax piece. And then the third one is taking. We saw back in the 1930s, Roosevelt came and said, hey, under declaration, all persons who own gold have to turn their gold in. They paid them like $20 an ounce. The next year, they repriced that at $34 an ounce. The government made a nice take off of that, but they came in and took the gold. We believe that once it becomes states' currency, state legal tender currency, they didn't take it from states. They took it only from the people. And you got the right attorney generals out there and so forth that will say, hey, you're not taking this. In fact, we have a bullion depository built here in Texas, thanks to some thought leadership that Kevin Freeman, the author of this book, and my business partner wrote. We got the bullion depository put in place, and it's built now. We don't have the transactional done. That's going to get done this next legislative session. But outside that bullion depository in Texas, we have our flag up says, come and take it. You're not taking. That's our Texan way of saying you're not getting it. And so it's secure that way as well.
I got a couple final questions for you, and then I certainly want the audience to be able to connect with you. I'm going to recommend they grab your book. Certainly start tuning into your radio show at piratemoneyradio.com. But, I think for individuals that don't know the space the way you would, they would wonder things like, okay, is there going to be enough gold out there to actually do all this for everybody? And if it's limited, because, what's here is here, what actually happens to the price of gold? What potentially, and so I just want to know what you think about those two types of questions.
Yeah, well, the first question, is there enough gold? The answer is yes. And we go back to basic economics on that. As gold prices go up, more gold will be found. There's gold veins right now. Well, it's too expensive to go down and get that right now. All of a sudden, gold jumps from $2,400 to $3,400 an ounce. We can go a little deeper. It's up to $5,000. Oh, we got a new exploration, new mine over here. We can find that. But we saw that happen with gas prices. I'll go all the way back to the 70s. We're going to run out of gas by the 1990s. I remember that one point, but we keep finding more. We start figuring new technologies, new ways to drill, new ways to find things. But the benefit is it's a stable. Gold has been a stable source of value since biblical times, and I think you're going to continue to see that. It's almost like God's natural provision with the amount of gold that is out there and how it can be used. And it doesn't matter if gold goes from $2,400 an ounce to $5,000 an ounce. If I have gold, with electronic technology, I can break that down into fractions and be able to pay little pieces of gold. If I had a gold coin, I'd have to blow dust off. And if I sneezed, I might lose $1,000. That's not going to happen with this. Mm-hmm. So we can make it literally happen today. So the first question, is there enough gold? The second question, remind me what that was.
The price. What happens to the price? Does it, in your mind, as more and more people are starting to utilize it, does it just go from the 2,500 an ounce? Does it start shooting up? Does it shoot down? What happens when masses of people start to shift into this mindset?
Yeah, well, my guess is you look at all the central banks around the world and they're all buying gold right now. And what we're saying is we just want another way for people to be able, for you and I to be able to buy gold easily and do the same thing that the central banks are doing out there. Do we expect gold prices to go up? Yes. Can they go down? Yes. Yep. There's no silver bullet of, it's always going to be consistent. But over time, gold has been the one steady source of fair weights and measures. And so do I think it could go up, especially as we see what all the reserve banks and stuff are doing out there? I expect that it will. But does that prohibit me as a minimum wage employee from being able to afford to buy gold? Not if it's transactional, not if it's electronic, because I can buy my little pieces of it and I can still transact in that. And so that's the beautiful part of this thing. I believe it was God's plan and God's purpose that we've got something like this. We've gotten away from that. We've seen what that's done in terms of the record debt that we have, and it's not sustainable. We hear about World Economic Forum and everybody else talking about you will own nothing and be happy. I don't like that salute. I don't like that. As you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs on this, they're not going to like that. We now work towards, okay, what are our constitutional rights and how do we develop real solutions that will protect those economic liberty, protect our economic liberty and really provide for every citizen out there.
Mike, great stuff. Great stuff. I want the audience to know how to get a hold of you. And of course, everyone, 30 states, I think you said 30 states or approaching that number are working on this legislation as we speak. Some of them are in different stages of it. And the speed, legislation takes time sometimes, but things are moving forward. What's the best way for those interested in being on the inside of the conversation here to stay in touch with you and to keep involved?
Yeah, well, the first thing is get the book Pirate Money. If you can get that at piratemoneybook.com if you don't want to order it from Amazon, or you get it on Amazon because it is a really easy read. And in fact, the way a lot of these states have come to us is people have gotten that and they start to send it to the legislators. They send it to their treasurer, and then they start calling, well, what's this about? Help us understand it, and so forth. That's an easy way to get this.
Exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. Awesome. I was in Tallahassee in the Capitol, got an invite to an event across the street from the Capitol to talk about this topic, and that's where I heard about the book for the first time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I just want to talk real quick. I don't know how much, if we've got a few more minutes yet. I know. Are you want to take time? Okay. Let me just tell you, the author of this book, Kevin Freeman. Kevin is a former Templeton money manager. Who was recruited by Sir John Templeton to manage a fund, separately managed accounts fund, grew that from $0 to $2.5 billion with the team, is recognized as the world's economic warfare expert, debriefed all the three-letter agencies on what's going on, the economic war that's being waged against America. Unfortunately, many wouldn't listen to us back when he first started sharing this information back in 2010, 2011, 2012. He has a New York best-selling Times book called Secret Weapon, which describes what happened in 2008, how it can happen again. And this is one of the solutions coming out of that in one of his other books that's out there. But Kevin is not a tinfoil hat guy. He's not just trying to sell gold. We are facilitating the legislation. Credible. You'll see that when you read the book, but it's broken down in really easy language that even I can understand. As I read through this, it's an easy read. You'll get through that preface. You'll learn about people that are being debanked. It's like, my gosh, if this person got debanked, that could happen to me. What do I need to be thinking about? And you're going to walk away knowing that there is a solution. I think you're going to get hope, some peace of mind, and you're going to get motivated to say, you know what, I want to get this in my state. Mm-hmm. So definitely get Pirate Money book. Subscribe to economicwarroom.com. Economicwarroom.com. We send out one episode and one economic battle plan every week. They're easy to read. It breaks out the information. We support backup. We give backup links and support to what we're talking about. And then piratemoneyradio.com. Every Saturday morning that airs on American Family Radio. Syndicated across the country. We've also have a podcast so they can tune in and get that anytime. And then finally is transactionalgold.com. And that needs to be updated as we move into the 2025 session. But you'll see the states that have started to work this now and get a feel for if your state's even on the radar yet. If not, I encourage them to reach out to myself, and we'll help facilitate that legislation with them.
Mike, awesome interview. Thanks so much for your insight. I plan on circling back around as we keep progressing on this, and you can help keep us up to speed with what's going on. But thanks so much for being on here today. Have a great one.
Absolutely. Thank you for your leadership in Florida and your leadership in this podcast and what you're doing here. I'm excited to watch your future episodes.
Thanks.